Good morning and welcome back to the kitchen. Today we're going to make a cake that I got from my Aunt Audrey, the one I've told you about that I loved her cooking, my dad's only sister. It's a cake made with fig preserves in it. And before you say, yuck, I don't like figs, let me tell you, it is so moist and so delicious. And if you'll try it, I think you'll like it. Now I'm going to use some fig preserves that I canned a year or two ago, and of course they're still good. So I'm going to get the camera over close to the mixer where you can see what we're doing. I've already got my bundt pan ready. I put some Baker's Joy in it, and we'll make a good cake. Okay, I have already put 1 cup of oil into the mixer. And I'm going to add 1.5 cups of sugar to that, and I'm going to blend it a little bit. Just enough to mix it. And I will add my eggs, and it called for 3 eggs, but again I had some small eggs, so I'm using 4, but just 3 large eggs. Okay, I've got the eggs blended really well. And now I'm going to go ahead and add a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of soda. And Auntie would put a tablespoon of vanilla, but she didn't use the strong extract, so I put about 3/4 of a tablespoon into mine. And I'm going to blend that. It takes 2 cups of flour. Because I have so much liquid in there, I'm going to go ahead and put all the flour in at one time. I'm going to add in my fig preserves. And blend them, and then I'll add in the buttermilk, and we'll be ready to put it in the oven. Okay, my dough is pretty thick without the buttermilk in it, but I'm going to drizzle my buttermilk in. Then I'm going to add 1 cup of chopped pecans. So the cake consists of 2 cups of flour, 1.5 cups of sugar, 1 cup of oil, 3 eggs, 1 cup of fig preserves, 1 tablespoon of vanilla, 1 teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of soda, 1 cup of buttermilk, and 1 cup of chopped pecans. And then we will make a buttermilk glaze that you cook, pour over it after it's done, and I will of course bring you along for making that in just a little bit. Have it ready when the cake comes out of the oven. The cake has to cook for about 45 minutes at 325. So I've got my oven preheated and I got my bundt pan ready, and in just a minute I'll be pouring it in there. Let me add some pecans to this. This is a yummy cake. Now my auntie could cook without measuring. So one day when I was very young, she was making this, and I got her to measure it. That's how I got my mama's dumpling recipe. I got her to measure while she was making, because she would just do it. So that's how I came up with having it, and then she actually wrote it down after that and kept it on file, I guess, because in their little church cookbook, she put the recipe. Okay, we're done. I'm fixing to run over to the butcher block where I've got my cake pan. I'll bring y'all over there and we'll get it in the pan and in the oven. You know, I told you that I'm guilty of tasting of the cookie dough. Well, I'm just as guilty of tasting of the cake dough too. And already got me a little taste, and it's delicious. When the kids was home, I would purposefully save them a little bit in the bottom of the pan so they could eat it. Don't scrape it too good, Mama. I want to eat it. So I'd leave some just so they'd be happy. And you know, it never hurt them. Some of these new things that you hear about that they're warning you about, I'm not too sure about it. Of course, y'all don't take my word for the gospel, just do what you want to do. But I do what I want to do, and I want to lick the bowl, so I do. Okay, I've got it ready to go in the oven, and I'm going to drop it a time or two to get the air bubbles out. And in about 45 minutes, we'll be back and glaze this thing, and you'll wish you were here to get it. Okay, the cake don't like very much being done, and so I thought I would tell you how we're going to make the glaze to go on top of it. Now, the recipe calls for, into my pot here, I've already got ingredients, a cup of sugar, a tablespoon of white corn syrup, a half a cup of butter, a half a cup of buttermilk, a teaspoon of vanilla if you're using pure vanilla extract. If you're just using vanilla flavoring, use a tablespoon. And a half a teaspoon of soda. Now what you do is you put that on the stove and you bring it to a boil. You let it boil for 3 minutes. That's it. Take it off the stove and you're just going to drizzle it over the top of the cake. And if you want to poke a few holes and let it go down in it, this glaze is heavenly. It's also good on, if you just bought a chocolate cake mix and made this and poured over the top, it's wonderful. I think it's something about the buttermilk. I don't know, but I love this. So I'm adding my buttermilk in. And I'm going to go ahead and get it on the stove and bring it up to a boil and let it boil for 3 minutes. I'll get the cake out of the oven and I'll show y'all when I'm pouring the glaze on it. And then when it cools enough, I'll cut a piece and show you just how yummy it is. My Aunt Audrey was one of the best cooks in the whole wide world. Everything she cooked was delicious. So if y'all try this cake, you'll say, well, I don't know about everything, but that was delicious. I thought I would bring you over here to the stove and let you see the glaze is starting to boil a little bit, and it has to boil for 3 minutes, and then I will take it off and wait till the cake's ready on the cake plate, and I'll pour it over. I got the bundt cake out of the oven, and it's so pretty, and it's still piping hot. So I'm going to just take my glaze in the pot and just pour it over it and let it, I'm not going to poke holes, I'm just going to let it glaze it. And see how that gets a caramely color? When you're boiling it for 3 minutes, it makes it good. Let me swap hands here. I'm right-handed. Some things I do left-handed, but I better be a little careful on that. Come from this direction and y'all can see. It just bunches up, and then when you get you some of the cake, you scoop some of that up on it, but I'm going to have to try to poke holes or something because I got way too much here. It will kind of sugar up on you a little bit, like a glaze should. I want to show y'all as the icing or the glaze cools. You see there's not much around the edges. I've just been taking my big old tablespoon and drizzling it back on the top and rubbing it a little bit and scooping it up. So it gets a lot thicker. So as it cools, you can keep working with it and get most of that glaze to just be a big old thick yummy stuff on the top of the cake. So I wanted to show you that. I sure hope y'all make this cake. It is yummy. And when you cut it, you can drizzle some of that stuff on your cut piece. Sure does make it good. I'll show you in just a minute. Okay, y'all, I got me a piece of cake, and then I drizzled a little bit of the extra icing on it. Look at that. Don't you wish you was here to get a bite? Well, I wished you were too, because I would fix you a glass of iced tea or sweet milk, and we'd have some cake. But right now, since it's just me and Troy, by the way, we've been married 49 years today. Sure have. That's a long time, isn't it? If we can make it, y'all can make it. So if you're fussing and fighting, just settle your differences and make it work. I'm going to need to buy this cake. Tastes just like if Aunt Audrey made it. And you really can't taste figs in it. It just makes it real moist and delicious. And then when you put that buttermilk glaze on it, you'll think you done died and went to heaven, or family reunion or somewhere. Now, y'all get in the kitchen and make something good to eat. Gather that family around the table this evening. Have a good supper. Make one of these for dessert. Cut those cell phones off and visit with each other. Make some sweet memories, because one of these days, memories of being at Mama's table is all your kids going to have, because you're going to be gone. So you better be making some memories. Now y'all come back tomorrow. I don't know if we're going to have a casserole or a dessert, but I promise you it'll be something good.